recently we were on a job where we were installing some new windows, and there was some existing vinyl siding on the house. And typically when we cut the vinyl siding, we use a grinder, like a 4-inch or a 5-inch grinder with a diamond blade, because it cuts nicely through the siding without chipping the siding. But recently I saw some tool reviews for a tool that I've kind of had my eye on. I've been excited to have a reason to buy, and this seemed like the best opportunity, to buy the tool, because it seemed like it would fit right into what we were trying to do. The grinder, when you're up on a ladder and you're cutting the siding, it's a little bit cumbersome, especially if it's a corded grinder and you're trying to, run it along the window in a straight line. But I saw a tool, which I'm going to grab for you and show you recently, and I saw a couple reviews on it myself, and it seemed like it would make our job a lot easier. So here we go. The M12 fuel cutoff wheel, multi-cutoff wheel. So we went out and we bought it after we installed, I think, we were on our second window. So we went out to the store and we bought this because I was like, you know what, kind of works like a circular saw. You should be able to run a nice straight line up around the window and cut the siding the way that we normally do. And well, here's how that went. Here's how that went at the job site. As you can see, I've opened this already because we did use it and try it out that day. But we're going to do a re-unboxing here for you. But at the job site, it really was ineffective because, my own fault for not reading this earlier. For one, the cut that you can get with this tool is not quite 3/4 of an inch. And everybody who knows anything about siding knows that siding is roughly about a 3/4 inch thick material, at its widest point. So right out of the gate, trying to use this, it would cut through a little bit of the siding, but when it got to the other areas that were thicker, I couldn't get through, where the two sidings lapped, I couldn't get through fully those pieces. And then the other problem was, it just didn't seem to have enough torque to, if you had any kind of pressure on it, trying to make those cuts, it would stall out on the house. And again, we were up on a ladder, so it wasn't ideal. So I'm going to go ahead and open it right now, and we're going to do a demonstration of some of the multi-material cuts that, they claim to be able to do. But my first impression for what we bought it for, it was not great for that. So we're going to go ahead and test it out on some other materials, though, and see if it has a use. First thing we got to do is put the blade on. And I noticed this too, and I don't know what it is. It's like the way that I wanted to operate and use this tool was like a circular saw, so you can see it in my hand and would work that way. But this housing is really, really loose, and it has a lock, but the only way it locks is when the handle's like straight up and down, which I find not very user friendly. That was one of the drawbacks that I had with this tool. But I'm going to show you the blade change right now as well, because that was another negative, I'm going to say. In order to change the blade, you've got to lift off the depth cutter, because you have to get this piece of plastic off. And you would think that this piece of plastic would be easy, but they have it screwed at this one end, and they don't give you a tool to remove that screw. Lucky for me, I'm in my wood shop, and I always have this type of thing. But if you're in the field and you want to change the blade, you have to have this specific star bit, and not everybody does. So what you do is you remove the screw, and then you can remove the plastic piece. They give you the Allen key and an extra arbor, it looks like, to hold the blade. So the blade I'm going to put on it is the diamond cut wheel. This again is what we use typically when we cut siding. It's got a lock in the front that you got to press in as you turn this, and it's a reverse threaded screw, as with a lot of tools. Pull that off. Pull off the arbor plate. Slide the blade in, get it seated. And let's put this back together real quick. Still got it locked. Alright, so that's that. And then you can go ahead and, you know what, I'm going to leave this off for the time being, because we're going to probably change the blade to show you another cut, depending on how this goes. So, for now, we're just going to use it without its safety feature. We got the blade loaded in there. I'm going to go ahead and try to turn this back to how I want to use it. The battery that we have right here, an M12, 1 amp hour battery. Load that on there, and here you go. So you can hear the tool. Now, again, only because we were playing around with it. The other reason I bought this tool was because in the videos and reviews I've seen that it was really well suited for tile. So I went ahead and I tried to cut a tile. This is a basic ceramic floor tile, and I tried to cut it, and you can see how jagged these cuts are and how much chippage there is, which doesn't seem very effective for a tile cutter. I mean, I cut tile with grinders and wet saws all the time, and I never had this kind of chippage. But I'm gonna, again, for the sake of the review, try to cut this end of it so that you can take a look at it and just see how this cutting goes. So. Alright, so I'm not even putting any pressure on this. And as you can see, this blade with this battery platform, I'm not getting as much chippage as I did, but it has no torque. It's got no power to get through it. It stalls out several times. I don't know why or what would be the cause of that, but it's the same problem that we were having when we were on the ladder trying to cut around the siding, is that it didn't have the power to get through, both the siding and just cut the plywood a little bit. I'll show you that. I'm going to do a demonstration of that in a second. But you can see here, too, that it wants to ride up on top of the tile, which is pretty weird. So as you can see, cutting this, maybe it's the type of tile, maybe because it's, I don't know, a 1/4 inch thick porcelain floor tile, that it's harder to cut, but doesn't seem to be ideal for that. Maybe if you're cutting a softer, like subway tile or something, maybe it would do a better job. But you're kind of at the mercy of what people choose. I'm going to give you a little demonstration of what we were cutting with the siding and the way that went. And so this is, vinyl siding, monogram. It's, a normal thickness, obviously. And just for realism, I'm going to lay it against this piece of plywood, because in reality, when you're cutting this, you're cutting into the plywood a little bit, and just to show you, what that was like and how it was stalling out as well. I will say that they cut through a little smoother, and actually I would like to show you that, because that's one of the reasons that we use a tool like this to cut the siding. Look how clean of an edge that is, and how there's no chippage at all with the siding. So, and maybe the battery's a little bit more charged than what I had it when I did it, because it charged overnight. It did cut a little bit better, but you can still see it doesn't have a whole lot of torque. And we're trying to cut around a window that was 2 foot by 4 foot, 2 foot wide by 4 foot tall. So we're technically cutting 12 linear feet of siding out, and this thing was stalling left and right, running around the window. And then, as I said before, you can see right here the depth of cut. What you have, that 0.64 of an inch, isn't even enough to go through the full piece of siding. So it really was ineffective for that as well. Next, I'd like to go ahead and change the blade, and we're going to show you how this thing does cutting metal, and because it's one of the blades that they give you, and we'll see how effective it is that way. say, not too bad cutting the metal Schluter. It cut through that pretty good. Again, I think I got a little more battery charge than I had when we were on the job site, so that actually cut pretty clean. That's not too bad. I'm gonna go ahead for argument's sake though and cut a piece of 1/8" steel. It's an old wrench from a table saw. This is about the thickest metal you could probably cut with something like this. So I want to see how it does, see if it struggles and or whether it cuts through nice. As you can see, it cut through that piece of metal. Again, if I had to have a complaint, it's going to be that it doesn't work like a circular saw, like it'll ride along the table edge. It seems to, because of the way the blade is turning, it wants to lift up quite a bit. The only way to counter that is to add pressure, but the more pressure you add, the more that the tool wants to stall out. So you're kind of like fighting the battery power by adding more pressure, to cut something like that. But overall, it cut through it. I don't have any complaint. I don't think that I would use this tool to cut a lot of metal in that fashion though, because this isn't like a real common size cut-off blade, carbide blade that they make, or wafer blade that they make. So I don't think it would be effective to, and plus you can see it there, it only gives you about a 1/2 inch of blade life versus when you buy a 5" grinder blade, the same kind, you get like 2.5 inches of blade life out of it, or 2 inches of blade life out of it. So I feel like if you were cutting vast amounts of metal, you'd be trying to change this blade like every 15 minutes or something. And as we already showed you with the little screw mechanism and the guard, it's not really an easy process to begin with. So my overall synopsis of this tool is, again, it was ineffective for the siding, which was the purpose that I bought it for. Beyond that, it cuts the other building materials as they describe. I do believe that tile is a little bit thick and it's porcelain, so maybe it's a little bit harder. It doesn't have a place to use like a wet saw to add water to this. It has a dust collection port, but I assume that means you're supposed to dry cut with it, which is never good for a blade anyway. So that's kind of a negative of it. I think if you were working with like a subway tile, a soft 3x5 or 4x6 subway tile, probably this would be a nice tool, a nice little handy tool to have to use. But for the everyday professional who's a contractor doing large work and large volumes of work, I think this is more of a novelty tool. And with that said, I think we're going to be returning it. Like I said, I find this to be more of a novelty. To be honest with you, it would be, as a homeowner, it would be a fun tool for me to have in my garage or around the house for small jobs that I would be doing myself as a homeowner. Again, I do this professionally, so I don't think it's a match for me. But like, I guarantee you it would make a great Christmas present for, all those moms and dads who are into their own little home improvements at their houses. So check out our affiliate link below if you're interested in purchasing it.